You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls. It's now time for One Man's Opinion on Sports with Bryan Pasquale. The phone lines are open at 724-843-1888 and 724-774-1888. You can also watch live on the WBVP-WNBA Facebook page. Here is your host, Bryan Pasquale.
Welcome to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He's ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Also, make sure you check us out on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. Today's show is sponsored by EZ Home Exteriors. That's the letter E, the letter Z, Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, and entryways, as well as siding. EZ Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008, 412-678-7008. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Welcome, Ryan. How's it going?
Good, Brian. How you doing today, man?
I am doing very well. We've got a lot to talk about. We've only got an hour, so I guess we might as well just dive right into it. We were talking, Art Rooney had a press conference on Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and he was saying some outlandish things like he was leaving the hiring of the offensive coordinator to Mike Tomlin alone, and then there would be a comma, and he would say that him and Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin talk every single day. So was it a group effort on the hiring of Arthur Smith, or do you think it was Mike Tomlin's hiring, Ryan?
I don't know, to be honest with you, Brian. I'd like to think that it was my problem with this Arthur Smith. Let me just start by saying this. I can't believe that they really jumped right into this Arthur Smith hire. They had two people come in prior to him. I think
you got 99 problems and Arthur Smith is one.
Well, Gerard Johnson was in. There was somebody else that was in, and then Arthur Smith. Of course, you have names flying around the league like Kingsbury and Kubiak and Zach Robinson. The big surprise to me was that they jumped on this Arthur Smith. So I'm really trying to piece it together as, you were trying to figure out, was this collectively, the organization, meaning Khan, Tomlin, and, company? I really don't know. I don't know. And
yeah, like to be a fly on the wall, right?
Absolutely.
I'd like to know what the answer is. So here's one thing I have. Most business owners that are successful, usually by the third generation, 90% of the businesses fail. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but Art Rooney is the third generation of the Steelers ownership. And are we in the 90% or the 10%, do you think, right at the moment?
Well, I think that, that there's signs of things that don't look great. And, the thing is, we just went through this season that we went through with Matt Canada. There's a lot of turmoil, a lot of uprising from the fans. You were calling for Canada's head most of the season, and then Mike Tomlin turns around and hires who I don't know much about Arthur Smith. I just know the same thing everybody else does. I'm reading the papers. I've seen what he did in Tennessee. That seems to be the popular go-to when anybody kind of badmouths this move. They go, well, he had two really good seasons in Tennessee as the offensive coordinator, and maybe he's just not a head coach like in Atlanta where he went down there, and as you mentioned before we went on the air, 21-30 in those 3 seasons.
He's consistent, 7-10, 7-10, and 7-10. I mean, that sounds like Mike Tomlin, but Mike Tomlin's usually on the other side of the 500.
Yeah, he is. So I don't know, Brian. I don't really know what to make of this just yet. I'm very curious to watch it play out. And as I said, the experience that we just went through this past season with Canada, I thought that they would play this out a little bit more, kind of give us the idea that they're searching, they're going to go through a lot of people. They're going to talk to a lot of people. They're going to try to get some ideas, but they jumped right into Arthur Smith. They must have said something that was liked. My first opinion was he was a safe hire, meaning he's not the guy that you're thinking is going to come along and take Mike Tomlin's job one day. And it seems to me that sometimes that's what people do when they hire people. You don't want to take – it's hard to hire the guy that's going to take your job one day.
Right,
you know,
right.
so maybe that's why, you know,
Well,
that
Ben
was
didn't like whenever they drafted Rudolph. Not that Ben hired him, obviously,
Right.
but he was not liking that whole situation clearly because Rudolph was going to take over the reins.
Yeah.
They did have a first round grade on him.
So, you know, in what Art Rooney and what he said in his press conference, what just happened that we went through and what we have to do moving forward, it's all still kind of fuzzy. The pieces of the puzzle aren't exactly coming together just yet. You know, obviously they know things about Arthur Smith that we don't know, but we're going to learn.
So, in case you missed it, yesterday the Steelers hired Arthur Smith. He's been in the leagues for about, I would say 10 or 11 years. He started out, some low-level jobs, and then with the Titans, he got promoted to, I guess, the offensive line and tight ends coach, Ryan?
Yeah, offensive line and tight ends coach.
And then he got promoted from there, became the offensive coordinator for 2 years, the 2019 and the COVID seasons.
Yeah.
I want to say Henry had a 2,000-yard season in 2020, so maybe our run game can even step it up better than they did the second half of this season. And then for the last 3 seasons, Arthur Smith, who will be 42 years old going into next season, his birthday's in May, so he'll be 42, about 10, 12 years younger than Mike Tomlin, we figured. So he's not the youngest guy, but he's not an old retread, I guess. So he went 7-10 the last 3 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons. They did not have very good quarterback play, so I guess he's walking into a similar situation.
Yeah, that's another big question: is how is he going to raise Kenny, so to speak? Kenny's at a very
Isn't Kenny older than Mason Rudolph? I'm kidding, of course, but that's just because Kenny was in college for longer than Van Wilder.
No, you're right, he was. But it's there's so many things that go into this, Brian, and as I said, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out quick. This is his decision making has been something that I've been curiously watching, because if you remember in preseason, Arthur Smith didn't start a single starter, Brian, through the whole entire preseason. Not one of his starters played through the whole preseason.
He's one of those guys.
He's one of those guys. So the decision making of the guy is that's a concern for people. But
well, he did have some young guys at skill positions that he had to work with. He had Bijan Robinson, Drake London, wide receiver, and then the tight end Kyle Pitts. I believe that he was the highest tight end drafted ever. Kyle Pitts, I believe.
I don't know if that's the case.
I could be just making things up, but I think I'm right. So at the running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions, he had very skilled young guys. And the knock on Arthur Smith, although he was not the offensive coordinator, just the head coach, was that in key situations, Ryan, in post-games interviews, in key situation, keys down, key times, he did not utilize any of those 3 guys, and he would go to somebody else. And his reasoning, the other team was expecting him to go to those guys.
That's exactly what we need. We need that guy. We need the guy that's going to make a decision. He that's what happens a lot of time in the NFL is these guys overthink, and they and I think that's what was going on here. But that sounds crazy to me, right?
It's the opposite of what we did when we had Jerome Bettis.
Right.
Like, we were lining up. We were putting an extra lineman at the line. You knew we were going to run it. We told you we were going to run it. We even set the signals to you that we are going to run it. We promise you we're not lying, and then we would just run it.
And they would put 20 people inside the box and try to stop us.
Right.
But
I believe they brought a couple cheerleaders in a few
Right.
times to play defensive back and pack the line of scrimmage.
They did. I remember one game against the Bears, they even threw a number 54 on this one cheerleader, and he ran him right over. I remember that.
54. Oh, poor Brian Urlacher, right?
Yes.
Urlacher, what a heck of an inside linebacker, but that play was amazing.
Iconic.
Yes, very, very iconic. The one thing I did like about what Arthur Smith did in Tennessee is 2 things that we don't, well, I guess one we don't do ever is the play action. They ran the play action very well. Now, obviously, if you have Henry running for 2,000 yards, it's easier to, get the safeties and linebackers to cheat up on the run. But the other thing he did is he ran a lot of 2 tight end sets. And we talked about that on Ralph's show yesterday, Ryan, because you were talking about Mount Washington possibly moving into tackle, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Uh, Listen, that was pure speculation. I don't know if that's even a possibility. They may even tamper with it one day and mess with it, but who knows if it could ever become a reality. The guy, I can't believe with that size, they just don't take more shots. Inside the 20-yard line, you're trying to get a little close to the goal line, get in the end zone. You got to use a guy with size like that, but. Maybe Arthur Smith could be the guy that comes in and utilizes players the right way and puts them in the right places that give the Steelers a better chance to win.
Yeah, at 5:30 we're going to have Dan Neely on, and we're going to be talking about some like offensive line things. So we'll probably get into that deeper then. At 5:15. We are going to have Ralph Williams on, and we are going to be talking about some of the defensive moves that the Steelers will be making this offseason, hopefully. So we'll be getting into that. There is a subject, Ryan, and I want to kind of promote this. Next week, I want to say at the 5:45 block, the final block of our show, we come up with a list of the hottest significant others to attend sporting events.
Yeah.
I mean, guys can be included. No. I don't know how many guys go to watch their significant other that they're hot, but we're going to come up with a list, and we're going to rank them, okay? And I don't know if we're going to have a list of 10 or we're going to have a list of 50 or somewhere in between. I can't imagine we'd have more than 50. But I really want to rank where you think, and I want everybody to comment on Facebook, the Beaver County Rodeo Facebook and YouTube page, who they think should be on this list, who they rank, and where your girl Taylor Swift falls, Ryan.
All right, yeah, we could do that. We could definitely do that. And here's the thing, Brian, we're keeping the spirit of Taylor Swift alive. She's going to be away in
Japan.
In Japan, I think during the Super Bowl.
She's taking the red eye or the Pacific eye. I don't know what flight you take from where's she going? What was the one we nuked?
Hiroshima.
So she's flying from Hiroshima into Vegas, direct flight, I think. Private jet, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. But as I said, we're going to keep the spirit alive. We'll take a look at some of these significant others, Brian. I think this is a fun idea. It breaks it up a little bit, and we'll take a look and see what's out there. I can think of a couple right off the top of my head. So.
Oh yeah, I've got a few that are etched in. I have no hot guy ones though. So I don't know. So we're gonna have to dig into that for you women out there that want to participate in this. I'm sure you can comment some of that. But that will be next week at the 5:45 block of our show. I'm looking forward to it. We're obviously going to be talking Super Bowl next week. There is a local gentleman, Ryan, attending the Super Bowl. Do you know who it is?
Who is it, Brian?
It is Coach Mike Warfield. He is being nominated for what, Ryan?
Don Shula High School Coach of the Year.
How does he not win it? I mean, I don't know any of these other coaches, obviously.
I would give it to him. I'd give it to him right now. But as you said, we don't know who is out there. We don't know what else is out there because, other places are rich in high school football as we are. As Texas is really big. California, Florida, everybody knows this. So you and I think it would be a shoo-in. But you know what? Who knows what's out there? Here's how good of a coach he is. Heinz Ketchup decided they didn't want to spend the money to have the stadium be in North Shore. They wanted their stadium in Aliquippa. Yeah, any way you put it, that's a pretty awesome thing.
If you're listening, Coach, we'd like to get you on the show, not this Wednesday because I'm sure you'll be busy out at the Super Bowl, but possibly the next Wednesday if you're listening or anybody that is close to him. We'd like to have you on the show, and we'd like to get your Super Bowl experience with it. Hopefully you come back with the title.
You know what? And also to also give credit to Aliquippa name, Tyke Hayes, who is a Penn State commit at the time. He is also going to be heading out west with Coach Warfield, and they're going to be he's part of something Nike's doing, and it's the one high school football player represents every major market, 32 different teams, and he gets to go out there as well for some kind of Nike Combine, Chosen Ones Combine, I believe it's called. So good for those two gentlemen, Tyke Hayes and Coach Warfield.
All right, and some more local news, which I'm sure you guys are all on the edge of your seat for. As of last Wednesday, we all know that my daughter got accepted to the West Virginia University, which I have on. If you're watching on webcam here, I have on a Mountaineers hoodie because I will be fully invested for hundreds of thousands of dollars to the university. But she did get accepted into the dentistry school for dental hygiene. So she got accepted. And so congratulations to my daughter.
That's awesome. Good for her.
Yeah, she's so much smarter than me. Got all of her brains from her mother, obviously. So on the other side of the break here, we're going to have Ralph Williams from Sports Corner. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We will be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
In revolutionary times, to be a patriot meant devoting oneself to the greater good and serving one's country in order to preserve the quality of life for everyone. Being a patriot can still bring great rewards in much the same way when you engage with Patriot Home Care in the Beaver Falls area. It can happen as an in-home care and general assistance provider for your loved one, or as a place for you to serve others as a Patriot Home Care employee. Do the patriotic thing today. Call Patriot Home Care, 724-506-8911. Let's all join together to serve the community. Airtime provided by Beaver Area Heritage Foundation.
Let's get grumped up. Feel like grabbing a drink with friends or enjoying a delicious meal? Stop in the Grumpy Beaver, 234 Bridge Street in Bridgewater. Try a variety of hoagies or hot dogs. Enjoy the wedge selections or a mouth-watering dessert. If you need a place to host an event, they've got that covered too. Call the Grumpy Beaver today and become a member of the Grumpy Nation. To keep up with current events, live music selections, and more, follow the Grumpy Beaver on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to check out the Spirit Speakeasy located upstairs behind the red door, Thursday through Saturday at the Grumpy Beaver.
Zookie's Sports Tavern on Constitution Boulevard has the best wings and homemade sauces in Beaver County. Zookie's Sports Tavern is the perfect place to grab a bite to eat or a cold beverage before high school basketball games. Zookie's Sports Tavern has a heated and enclosed outside bar equipped with several big screen TVs and is the ideal place to watch all of your favorite sports. Don't forget to become a VIP for discounts and special offers at Zookies.com. That's Zookie's Sports Tavern on Constitution Boulevard.
Listening to live sports on the radio in Beaver County is a tradition. This is Craig Fontana from Moon Township Ford, and I ought to know. My dad, Bill Fontana, has called games for over 50 years. Beaver County people know a good call when they hear one, and the best call you can make is to buy your next new or used vehicle at Moon Township Ford. Click moontownshipford.net or visit Moon Township Ford on University Boulevard.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Now back to One Man's Opinion with Bryan Pasquale.
On Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He's ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Also, make sure you check us out on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. Today's show is sponsored by Easy Home Exteriors. That's the letter E, the letter Z, Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, entryways, as well as siding. Easy Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That's 412-678-7008. All right, on the line, we do have Ralph Williams from Sports Corner. You can catch him every Tuesday here on Beaver County Radio from 4 to 6. Welcome to the show, Ralph. Everything's fantastic today. Ryan and I are having a good time already. We're excited to hear your opinions on some things. This is one man's opinion, but we like to get several opinions as well. That being yours, we have Ralph on Wednesdays with Wednesday Wisdom with Williams. Before we get into the offensive coordinator, and I'd like to go over some offseason Steelers defensive moves. Before we get into that, Pitt men's basketball is home tonight versus Wake Forest and home versus Notre Dame Saturday. What's going on with Pitt men's basketball? Yeah. Yeah, I think he's having surgery. Mm-hmm. Well, the good. Right. Well, the good news for Pitt men's basketball is the first half of their ACC schedule was much tougher. It looks like it's getting easier. Not that that's guaranteeing any wins, but the teams they have to play the second half are much easier than the first half. Yeah, there was a drought before that.
Youngstown last year for my because my nephew was in a car crash. I was in a hotel watching all the brackets and all that stuff on the TV. So I mean, and I was happy to see Pitt get in. So, but we'll see what they do this year. The women's team has actually won more games now than they won in 2 years.
Oh, I have not followed I watched the women's volleyball team, but I have not been following Pitt women's basketball.
Yeah, they have a new coach. This guy's a good recruiter. Supposedly, they've already won 8 games. In the last 2 years, they won 4 games. So, I mean,
right,
it's some kind of improvement.
Yeah, step in the right direction.
Right, exactly.
All right. Speaking of steps in the direction, your thoughts on the hiring of Arthur Smith?
Well, let me say this. I heard you guys talking here before I came on the air about how, Mike Tomlin doesn't want to hire somebody who's going to steal his job. I have a candidate for you guys that I thought probably should have been the offensive coordinator, and that is Eric Bieniemy.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bieniemy was stuck in Washington because after Ron Rivera got fired, his goal was to become the head coach there when Ron Rivera stepped down, but Ron Rivera got fired. He didn't step down, he got fired. So now, Eric Bieniemy's kind of stuck in the lurch there a little bit. I don't know why they didn't reach out to him, but of course I do remember why, because you guys brought this to our attention, and that is because they don't want to hire somebody that's going to steal Mike Tomlin's job.
So you agree with that, Ralph?
I agree with that. I think that Bieniemy didn't get an interview because Mike Tomlin thinks that somebody's going to come in and take his job. And, he doesn't want anybody smart enough to do that. Arthur Smith was the perfect hire for him. Somebody that can run an offense, running game kind of thing, play action, easy for Kenny Pickett to understand. So we'll see where this goes with this. I do know that I did hear today that Mike Munchak might be coming back because him and Arthur Smith worked together at Tennessee. And Munchak's come back, and he wants to work under Arthur Smith.
I'm all for that. I know we're going to talk more of the defensive side of the ball, but Munchak and that offensive line would be an absolutely, a vast improvement just on their own personal skill levels.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, switching to the defensive side of the ball here. There's going to be some players that are definitely going to be back next year. We got Keanu Benton. I think he had a great rookie year. T.J. Waddle obviously back. Highsmith, Minka Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr. The rest of it, to me, is kind of up in the air. What are your thoughts? Let's just start with the defensive line. Who will be back and what they should do for the people that aren't coming back?
Well, first 2 things they need to do, Brian, is to get Cam Hayward and Larry Ogunjobi to take a pay cut. Ogunjobi, he didn't do too much this year. He got that big contract, didn't do hardly anything. I mean, he finally kicked up at the end of the season, but for a guy who's getting paid what he's getting paid, he should have stepped up a whole lot better than this. Okay, I think they need to ask him to take a pay cut or adjust his contract. And Cam Hayward's going to have to adjust his if he's going to stay here. The Steelers need money to get to beef up the offensive line a little bit more with this power running game that Arthur Smith implores. They're also going to have to do some more again at inside linebacker. I mean, even though they had some backups this year that came in and did some stuff and they had some guys like Juwan Alexander. We don't know how his injury is if he's going to be back. We don't know if Cole Holcomb's going to be back. So the Steelers are in deep trouble in a couple areas. Cornerback, they need to get rid of Levi Wallace, and a few other guys. That James Pierre, he stinks. There's some guys that are just horrible, on defense. Patrick Peterson, maybe. He only signed, I think, a one-year contract. I don't even know if he's even coming back.
Right. Didn't he give all the younger players autographed jerseys of his jersey? It's kind of like a going-away present.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
All right. So as far as the defense then, okay, what would you draft on defense? What position and what rounds do you think?
Well, here's what I would do if it was me. I would start off with the first 4 rounds of defensive tackles and offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
Then go into your 5th round and take. I hear they're talking that Florida State quarterback. If they decide to draft him, okay. Now I'm hearing stories that Sam Darnold's going to be available after the Super Bowl because he no longer has a contract with San Francisco, and some people are saying the Steelers might want to look at him and bring him into here at a bargain price. Then if you do that, then you don't have to draft a quarterback. Okay, you already have 3 if you keep Mason Rudolph. Okay, I hear and then maybe get I'd say another wide receiver in the late rounds and maybe a corner. You only have like 7 rounds. I think they might have some compensatory picks. But I'd focus the first 4 rounds on the lines of scrimmage.
Yeah, every player's better. Every skill player or defensive back, every player is better. The bigger, the stronger, and the better your offensive and defensive line are, for sure.
Absolutely, Brian. The lines of scrimmage are the most important parts of the game. If you have poor lines of scrimmage, you're not going to win football games. You're going to win them in the trenches. And right now the Steelers on the defensive line, have not really been winning in the trenches. And then when Cam Hayward got hurt, it really went down the hill a little bit. And I know Keanu Benton had a good year. That backup, Armin Watts, when he came in, he contributed on the running game, shutting down the run. So, they have a few guys. Loudermilk has to go. He either has to improve or he has to go.
Agreed.
They got to get rid of Montavious Adams. He hasn't done anything. So there's a bunch of guys, and I call them Tomlin's bums, that have to go.
A couple concerns I have, Brian, is this. You have this guy on the offensive side. I know you're talking about the defense and things like this, but my question is, you're trying to keep up in a league that became a passing league.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring this guy in to kind of cater to the way that it seems to me to what we have. We haven't played really good football. We have a really shaky quarterback situation, Brian.
That's putting it mildly.
And that's putting it mildly. So what are we doing? Are we catering to these guys just to be a good enough style of team that doesn't really exist in the NFL anymore? Why are we not making moves to keep up with the pack, let alone, just being a better Steeler team alone? There's and let me come back to the defensive side of the ball now. Building this team moving forward, what position do you guys go after with your number 1 pick, your number 20 overall pick in the first round? With all that being said, are you going to go to something to complement what it is that they want Arthur Smith to do with this running the ball, with play action pass, with this 90s, early style 90s, all the way back through the 80s Steeler kind of offense? Or do you draft into the new generation of football, this passing league? I'm just having a really hard time figuring out what the Steelers are going to do to stay competitive. It seems like we're doing more to run in place just so we don't fall under than to move forward as a team. We're going to have all the problems that we had last year. Explain to me how things are going to be any different next year. We're going to bring in a couple different guys. We're going to get some guys in the draft, and we have Arthur Smith. How do you see things, Ralph and Brian, before we go on break? How can things be better moving forward for this team when they're actually, again, seems like they're running in place?
Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, it's not. It's not, Ryan. The Steelers have lied to us. They said they were going to go out and get this high-priced offensive coordinator coming here, and they were going to start passing the ball and throwing it everywhere. Now, all of a sudden, we're running the ball with Arthur Smith. And I knew they were going to hire Arthur Smith because I didn't think they would hire. They can't get anybody to come in here like a Ben Johnson or something to come in here. No way. They'd have to pay him too much money.
And that's,
whatever.
and a lot of people are saying that. They're saying, well, Arthur Smith, he goes hand in hand with what we do in our kind of offense. These other guys, it wouldn't work here because that's not what we run. Well, these other guys are coaching teams that are winning in playoffs. These other guys are coaching teams that are making it to the playoffs. These other teams are coached by guys. Just, again, it feels like we're running in place, guys. I don't understand what they're doing and how we're going to move forward by making these moves that they're making.
Any last words, Ralph, before we go to break?
Yeah, let me tell you guys this, and I don't know if a lot of you know this or not. Art Rooney II used to be a lawyer. He was a bad lawyer. His partners bought him out. When he came to the Steelers, his dad gave him a job here, and also his grandfather. So there you go.
All right, well said. You guys can check out Ralph Williams on the Sports Corner every Tuesday from 4 to 6 here on Beaver County Radio. I appreciate you coming on, Ralph.
Oh, you're welcome anytime, Brian. Thank you. And I appreciate you coming on my show on Tuesdays.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much, Ralph.
Have a great one.
See you, man.
All right. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We will be right back with Dan Neely on the other side of the break.
No matter what the circumstances, no matter the reason, one of the few things that is left when a loved one passes on are the memories. Staging those memories in an honoring way is one of the reasons so many people have chosen J&J Spratt Funeral Home. A person's legacy depends on a lifetime of accomplishments and then how they are remembered. J&J Spratt Funeral Home has helped start the process of creating positive legacies for over 70 years. Visit jjsprattfh.com. Joseph M. Spratt, Supervisor and Funeral Director.
If you're a parent that's already watched plenty of youth baseball or soccer games, you know the value of teamwork. Whether it's the team on the field or your team of family members at home, strengthening that group can pay off in many ways. Keystone Wellness Programs is offering their free Strengthening Families program in Beaver County for families of children ages 10 to 14. Learn how to increase family bonding and communications, all while having fun together. Visit KeystoneWellnessPrograms.org for details. In Beaver County, there are many great stories to tell. One such worthy story is that of the Drug-Free Community Support Program. Now in its fourth year of serving Aliquippa, the project has enjoyed great success through in-school interaction, education, raising awareness, and data analysis. The Drug-Free Community Support Program in Aliquippa has a mission to help local youth make better decisions regarding alcohol and drug use. For more information or to find out how you can get involved, visit Drug-Free Aliquippa on Facebook.
It started with a road trip into the American Midwest. Huntington bankers with one mission, to understand how people made sense of money. And that's how we met Dontel.
How do we control cash flow? Calendar, dates marked for invoices, when payroll hits.
It's messy, but it gives us a sense of what's coming.
And that's how we came up with a tool that helps businesses forecast cash flow digitally. Our customers give us the best ideas. Huntington, welcome. Member FDIC. Learn more at huntington.com.
Now back to One Man's Opinion with Bryan Pasquale.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He is ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Also, make sure you check us out on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live as well as Beaver County Radio YouTube. Today's show is sponsored by Easy Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, and entryways as well as siding. Easy Home Exteriors, your one-stop shop for all of your exterior modeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That's 412-678-7008. Now what you guys have all been waiting for, we have our Bills insider, NFL expert, our fantasy guru, the dancing destroyer, the king of sting, the Count of Monte Fisco, the prince of punch, the master of disaster, the one, the only, Dan, the man, Neely. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Dan, real quick before we get into the hiring of the offensive coordinator, the NFC and AFC championship games, I feel like the Ravens lost it, and so did the Detroit Lions, specifically their head coach. Did the Chiefs and 49ers win the game, or did the Ravens and Lions lose the games?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I honestly, I think that I give the Chiefs a lot of credit. Their their defense is very good, and everybody talked about the Ravens' defense and how good it was. And when you really looked at the numbers before the game, the Chiefs' defense was just as good, and they turned out to be better. And I think a lot of people want to put it on, Lamar Jackson folding, poor game plan. I think they ran like less than 10 times versus a pretty bad run defense. But when it all comes down to it, the Chiefs are really hard to score on, and not very many teams are scoring very many points against them. And the 49ers game, that was exciting. That's what the 49ers do sometimes, and that's what the Lions do sometimes. And Dan Campbell, you love him or you hate him, but the guy takes those chances and he lives with the results.
All right. Well, we'll have you on next Wednesday if you are available. We'll talk the Super Bowl matchup, but we'll let that marinate for the audience for another week. The next thing I want to talk to you about, and all I've been hearing is the Western Pennsylvania, Greater Pittsburgh area thoughts on Arthur Smith. Can you give us what's everybody around the nation thinking of the hire of Arthur Smith to the Steelers?
Personally, I was surprised that he got a job.
You were the first one to message me, by the way.
Yeah, I was really surprised he got a job so quickly. I think that the problem he had in Atlanta, he's not really going to have in Pittsburgh, though. They don't have a Bijan Robinson to not give the ball to. They don't have a Kyle Pitts. They don't have a receiver that was drafted in the top 5 in Drake London. So it may be just what the Pittsburgh is looking for. Actually, the passing offense that Smith had was about 20 yards better a game, and he didn't have a good quarterback, really. He struggled flipping back and forth with Ritter and Heineke and didn't really get good production out of either. His rushing offense was just, I think, 10 yards a game better than Pittsburgh's. I think it should improve. He was terrible in the red zone. That was one thing where
Kenny Pickett's just the worst, so that's no bueno.
And then he was actually much better with third downs than Pittsburgh was this year. So, maybe he can sustain drives better, control the clock better, and play that Mike Tomlin style football where they hold the ball longer than the other team and make less mistakes and win the game.
All right, Dan, I can kind of hear this in your voice, and it's probably because I've known you for decades. I know that you're talking to a primarily Steelers pro audience here. Give it to us down and dirty. You could tell us it's a terrible hire. We're okay.
Well, time will tell. He had a good offense with Ryan Tannehill, and maybe Ryan Tannehill replaces Mitch Trubisky. But the Steelers' cap situation it's in a tough spot. I think that I read to T.J. Watt restructuring some money and moving it around can get the team under the cap by $4 million just by himself. So that's a nice thing. I think he'll do that for the team. Alex Highsmith can restructure, move some money, save $7 million. Minka Fitzpatrick, you can move some money and save $9 million. And then they're going to have a real tough decision with Cam Hayward. It's move some money around, save $10 million. Just cut the guy, save $16 million. If you move money around, you're just kicking it down the road for later, and it's not going to really help you with him because you don't really think he's going to be on the team in 3 years. So I think that just in restructures, though, the Steelers can get down under the cap. And then if you really look at the roster, they have some opportunity to save some more money pretty easily. Allen Robinson's a prime cut candidate. He didn't produce like he was supposed to. He can save $10 million right there. Trubisky's probably gone. That's $3 million. Let me ask you a question. James Daniels, Isaac Sumalo, or Nate Herberg, who gets cut out of those three?
I would keep Nate Herbig, and
okay.
and then Siamalu is probably our best offensive lineman this year. I don't know what he's getting paid. He played left guard, and if you notice, this is going back to the Jerome Bettis days, but wherever Alan Faneca went, that's where the ball was going. And when we had 4th and short or 3rd and short, and you knew it was a quarterback sneak, they always ran it behind Siamalu every single time. So I would assume they're going to keep him. James Daniels is awful. Mason Cole, their center, is beyond awful. So
if you cut Daniels and Cole, you're saving $13 million right there. So Robinson, Daniels, Cole's $23 million in savings just by cutting those 3 players.
Can you call up
Coach
T?
Yeah, could you write a letter for our coach, please? We'll hand it in.
The Steelers are not likely to be big spenders, but I do see them getting enough under the cap that they will be able to make an impact free agent signing or two. I do believe that they will be a player for at least some position of need.
Ryan, do you have any questions for Dan?
No, I just thought to myself, I mean, those are, you get rid of those 2 guys from the offensive line along with Robinson, you can certainly clear up a lot of money. What do you do in that situation, Brian? I mean, do you because the depth, the offensive line isn't really that good with the exception of these couple players. Of course, Siamalu, we have trust that Broderick Jones is going to be good. But what do you do in the meantime? If we do cut these guys, if we draft to go after those positions, that's going to be a rookie, which, okay, we could work with that position and they're going to get better over time. How would you handle that, Dan? Because the offensive line was obviously an issue, and maybe with a coach like Arthur Smith coming in the success that Najee and Jalen Warren both had last season, what kind of, how would you handle the offensive line?
Well, I haven't gotten into the prospects yet, but historically, year in and year out, if you want to draft a center, you can do that in the 2nd round and still get a top 2 center in the draft class. I don't know why this is still the case, but centers just are not highly coveted in the draft, and you always end up with these guys with first-round talents later. So if you want a center through the draft, I always think that's a great idea because – heck, the 4th round, you're sometimes getting the 4th or the 5th best center in an entire NFL draft, and that's unheard of at other positions. So center is always a great value every year.
And that's always been a position for us. Go back to Mike Webster, Dermontti Dawson, Pouncey. We always had that anchor, and that's something that we haven't had to lead this offensive line for these past 7 seasons or so, when we haven't been playing well, we haven't been winning playoff games. Maybe a good place to start would be get yourself a nice guy right there in the middle, a nice anchor for the offensive line, and get us a top center in the draft. What do you think?
I'm a big believer in building the offense from the line out. I truly believe that if you don't have a quarterback, it's not real easy just to magically get a quarterback. So what you can do is you can get yourself a strong line, you can run the ball well, and you can protect the quarterback well. And then whenever that guy does come along, you at least stand a chance. You stand a chance for his development. You stand a chance for a guy to hang around and keep you in games without getting sacked all the time. I think it's a great idea. And the Steelers really improved their line play this year, and it was a huge factor in their improvement in certain categories running the ball.
I tell you what, that was a big pickup for Siamalu from Philadelphia, guys. I can't go on enough about how satisfied I am as a Steeler fan and what he was able to do and how he was able to transform that line to, for one, get that running game to do what it did.
A lot of it had to do with the insertion of Broderick Jones, who, according to Smokin' Jim Frazier on yesterday's show, is an all-pro. Dan Moore Jr. beat out Broderick Jones in training camp somehow, and Jones didn't start until, about week 6 or 7, and then that's when they put him in at right tackle, even though they drafted him to play left tackle, Dan. And from there, the Steelers ran the ball like 60 yards a game more, just with the insertion of Broderick Jones.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible.
Now, real quick, because we've only got about a minute left or so, Dan, what would you do at the quarterback position, if you're the Steelers, Kenny Pickett will obviously be here because, I don't know, we drafted him first overall for God knows what reason. Mason Rudolph will potentially be here. And would you bring in a 36-year-old Ryan Tannehill?
I personally wouldn't. I can't stand watching the guy play. Every time I watch him play, I'm going, throw the ball.
Wait. Are you talking about Kenny Pickett?
It drives me crazy. He's had weapons. He wouldn't throw the ball to Hopkins. I just can't stand to watch the guy play anymore.
I've never been a big fan.
You know, if it were me, I would always consider packaging whatever I could package to move up in the draft to draft another quarterback if I don't have one. And I think it's a good idea. I'm not sold on Pickett. I don't think anybody should be sold on Pickett. And the Steelers are in a good spot right now where there is 5-6 first-round quarterback prospects available in this draft. And there is going to be a guy or two that slides. And, you know, the year that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were taken, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold were taken ahead of them. So just because a guy is supposed to be the best doesn't mean much. You know, you could get the best quarterback in the draft just by moving up maybe 10 spots. Maybe next year's first moves you up 10 spots, and you get one of these guys that could have gone in the top 10 in almost any other year, but they're slipping out of the top 10 because there's so many good quarterbacks this year.
I got one quick question before you go. Dan, I agree with you 100%. I always say you need a franchise quarterback. You're not going to win a Super Bowl in this league if you don't have that guy. If you always have a mediocre to lower tier quarterback, you're not going to win a championship in the NFL. My opinion is this: make a package, take your first round pick, take your a second round pick next year, take TJ Watt, whatever it takes. Trade it away, get the number 1-2 pick in the draft, get your franchise quarterback, because that is, bar none, the most important position on the field. Without that quarterback, without that guy, without having that guy, I don't think NFL teams will make it to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. Dan, do you think as you stated earlier in your comment, do you think that that's a good idea? Is, you know, taking a bunch of valuable things, throwing it into a package, and trying to work your way to the top of the list to go get that guy?
I couldn't agree more. It's a huge risk. If it doesn't work out, it sets you back years and years.
Yes.
But I would take the chance, every single chance I had, until I had the next C.J. Stroud or...
I couldn't agree more.
Know,
Dan,
you're not going to get lucky and hit on a Brock Purdy that often.
No.
It's just tough
right.
to do.
Before we go to break, and we're going to break here in like 20 seconds, Dan, how many years was it in between Jim Kelly and Josh Allen, you know?
Oh, yeah. It was like the Bills went something like 19 years without a franchise quarterback.
You just can't do it. You're not going to win in this league if you don't have that guy.
And then you have Tom Brady in your division.
And they had the same problem the Steelers have. They were just good enough to never have that high draft pick.
Yep.
And the one or two times they had a high pick, there was no quarterbacks that year. Like one year we took Marcel Darius, I think 4 overall, and there wasn't even a quarterback that worked out in that whole draft. I think
that's the Bills' luck.
The very best quarterback, I can't even remember his name. He was so bad.
All right, Dan. Well, we have to go to break. I appreciate you coming on the show again, and we'll talk to you about Super Bowl and some money line picks next week, if that's good with you.
Yeah, I already started the research.
All right, Dan Neely, thanks for coming on the show. You guys have been listening to WBP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
Let's get grumped up. Feel like grabbing a drink with friends or enjoying a delicious meal? Stop in the Grumpy Beaver, 234 Bridge Street in Bridgewater. Try a variety of hoagies or hot dogs. Enjoy the wedge selections or a mouth-watering dessert. If you need a place to host an event, they've got that covered too. Call the Grumpy Beaver today and become a member of the Grumpy Nation. To keep up with current events, live music selections, and more, follow the Grumpy Beaver on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to check out the Spirit Speakeasy located upstairs behind the red door, Thursday through Saturday at the Grumpy Beaver.
When life brings the great outdoors indoors, you need a reliable washer and dryer with the ability to enhance cleaning and sanitize your laundry. See the experts at AK Nahas to determine the laundry pair that works the best for your family. Whether it's the durability of commercial cleaning like Speed Queen and Maytag, or the capacity and power steam cleaning of GE and Whirlpool, AK Nahas has it all. Cleaning is believing. See it all at AK Nahas Appliance, Furniture, Mattress, and TV. You'll do okay with AK.
You're listening to Beaver County Radio, coming to you live from the Fry Transportation Studios. Beaver County Radio and Fry Transportation, a winning team. 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP, providing news, sports, and information for 76 years.
Beaver County Radio is once again home for high school basketball this season. From the opening tip-off to the final buzzer of the state championship, we'll have all the action right here on Beaver County Radio. High school basketball coverage is being brought to you in part by Fisher's New Brighton Foodland, Friendly Federal Credit Union, The Grumpy Beaver, Patriot Home Care, Tri-County McDonald's Restaurants, Falcone's Moon Township Ford, AK Nahas Appliance and Furniture Center, the St. Barnabas Health System, the Community College of Beaver County, the Beaver County Career and Technology Center, Zuki Sports Tavern, Drug Free Aliquippa, Fry Transportation, and Beaver County Radio.
Now back to One Man's Opinion with Bryan Pasquale.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He is ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Also, make sure you check us out on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live, as well as Beaver County Radio YouTube. Today's show is sponsored by Easy Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, and entryways, as well as siding. Easy Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That's 412-678-7008. Ryan, we had on Ralph Williams today, talking a little offensive coordinator and some defensive moves for the Steelers. We had on Dan Neely, the last segment, talking offensive coordinator and offensive moves in the offseason for the Steelers. Is there anything you think we didn't go over for what the Steelers need to do this offseason?
Oh, wow. That's such a deep question, Brian.
Do we need another couple hours?
Yes, we do need a whole couple hours. There's so many things that we do need to address. Some things seem that we are so close. Some things feel that we are so far away still. I think that there's a lot that this team has to do. And as Dan said, Brian, that as you keep falling in, or Ralph, one of the guys said, as you keep falling into that area of that middle area, you're not one of the better teams, you're not one of the worst teams. You kind of this is kind of the cycle that you go through. Sometimes you have to land in the mud. Sometimes you have to be the team like the Patriots that had how many wins, 3-4 wins this season. Sometimes that has to happen to you to keep the
to get Ben Roethlisberger. You got to go 6-10 to get Ben Roethlisberger,
to keep
right?
And
trade up.
Yes, absolutely, and to just keep the balance. Otherwise, you're in the middle. You're just going to kind of keep running in place. There's no up for us. There's no down for us. Next year, if we go in basically where we're at right now, if we don't make any splash moves, I can't imagine going better than 10-7 and at best 11 wins. So I still think there's a lot of holes, Bri, and it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more than just a hire on Arthur Smith.
Well, what do you think for Mike Sullivan, not the Penguins coach, who, by the way, the Penguins are off. What do they have? The NHL All-Star game.
Yes.
So the Penguins are off till February 6th. Boy, do they need some time off to rest their legs and get their heads straight. But the Mike Sullivan, the quarterback's coach from this past season, also the play caller after they let Matt Canada go, and Eddie Faulkner, the running backs coach, who was promoted to offensive coordinator for the second half of the season. What do you think their status is going to be for next year?
That's a good question. I mean, what do you do? What do you do after you have the jobs that these guys have? Then you get promoted to offensive coordinator along with another fella, and what's your move after that? You don't see this too often that I know of. I'm sure it does happen around the league and these kind of things, but that's a good question. I don't know what the next move is for either one of these guys, bro.
What I would do if I ran the team, which this definitely 110% won't happen, is what you were alluding to. Throw all of your best players that have some value, starting with TJ Watt, into some sort of trade to get the best let's say, quarterback or the best quarterback and the best wide receiver in this draft or the next draft, TJ Watt's going to be 30, and I don't care how many defensive player of the years he's going to win. I don't care how many sacks he gets. He ain't won you a playoff game yet.
Bryan, let me ask you this: if you were the guy and you just made the move and you put the package together, Dan mentioned it is a big risk because you could land yourself a Patrick Mahomes, or you could land yourself a Tim Tebow. Here's the question:
we already have Tim Tebow. He's just less athletic.
Well, that's the point.
Kenny Pickett.
Because listen, exactly. And that risk that you take, I mean, do you take all that stuff and throw it together that you could have used in other situations to make other moves and go after this one particular guy because he's the best guy in this particular draft? Let's say Drake May is that guy. Drake May, and we go and we say, Drake May is the best college quarterback. We go get him. He just doesn't pan out in the NFL.
He's like a Ryan Leaf or something.
Just like a Ryan Leaf. So now look what you just did. You took all this, all this leverage that you could have used elsewhere to make your team and your situation better. So, Dan hit it right on the head. It is a risk, but on the other hand, if you're a gambler, a gambling person, you know what that risk feels like when you win. And that could be a great feeling as well. And that could take us a long way, as we found out with Big Ben. That went for almost 2 decades. So, getting that guy, it's not easy, but it's very important to do.
Yeah, Mark Malone was taken in the first round. So, there's that
How
much.
many, go through Johnny Manziel and Ken Dorsey and just all these names.
Everybody the Browns ever drafted.
Yeah, I'm just going to name all the Browns' first-round quarterbacks. But, I mean, seriously, these guys.
Who was the kid from Notre Dame?
Brady Quinn.
Brady Quinn.
Can you imagine if we made that move, Bryan, and we were bringing Brady Quinn?
We traded TJ Watt for Brady Quinn.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
My friend Courtney Lero, she would hate me. She would be mad because I traded away TJ Watt, her boyfriend, that's oddly shaped.
Oh yeah, with the oddly shaped. But that's where we're at. That should be the topic on all conversations, on all radio shows, and all shows talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, figuring out a way to make this happen and finding a way that it's going to land on our side of the fence, face up. You want to be able to do this, as we were talking about, put something together, go get that guy. You're not going to win without him. And do your best to make sure that he's you win that bet. You want
to get a 6-time Pro Bowl quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right?
I only knew that because Ryan had a trivia question today on his podcast. It was how many Pro Bowls was Ben Roethlisberger named to, and the answer was 6. I guess 4 because I thought it was pretty low for the amount of seasons he played, because there was obviously Tom Brady and Peyton Manning there. Ryan, why don't you tell everybody about your podcast?
Yeah, it's called The Two Dumb Yinzers, everybody. It's you could look us up on, we have a website, www.the2dumbyinzers.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, which is X now, Instagram, all the way across the social media platforms. You can check us out. We're live every day at 11 a.m. on YouTube. In the show that we do live, we upload over on Spotify over 8 o'clock in the evening, so you can check us out anytime, pretty much anywhere. Again, that's The Two Dumb Yinzers, and the website is www.the2dumbyinzers.com.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to next Wednesday's show. The Super Bowl will be played a few days shortly after that. Any early inklings on who you're liking in the Super Bowl, Ryan?
I like Kansas City, and as much as everyone hates Kansas City, I'm not going to change my opinion because
Are you a Swiftie?
I'm not a Swiftie. But I am definitely not a 49er fan. Ever since they passed us in 95 and we had to regain our Super Bowl supremacy by winning 2 more Super Bowls to pass them. Not a big 49er fan. I don't want to see them win. And that's the only reason, and the only reason only. So I'm going to have to say let's go Kansas City.
Let me ask you this, though, okay? Because if Kansas City wins, that puts them at 3.
Yeah.
What are the odds that Patrick Mahomes goes back to the Super Bowl a few more times and catches us?
Chances are that's going to happen. He appears to be the next GOAT, the next generation Tom Brady in ways. He is something to worry about. But at this time, San Francisco could catch us in a couple weeks. At this time, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs can't catch us for a few more seasons. So I take the lesser of the two evils, and I'm going the Chiefs in this one, Bryan.
All right. Well, little Steelers new, I guess. We were talking to Ray Fittipaldo yesterday on Ralph's show, and he's at the the Senior Bowl, and where all the college players are getting looked at by the coaches, and Mike Tomlin, I guess, is down there, and he was specifically looking and talking to centers and tackles.
Very laser-like precision on the offensive line was the statement that I heard.
Laser. All right, so next week, Ryan, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're probably going to talk about the Steelers a little bit. But what's the main thing we're going to talk about?
The other 55 minutes, we're going to talk about the girls that go to watch their men play football. Everyone's tired of Taylor Swift, but you know what? We've seen Eva Longoria show up for A-Rod. We've seen all these girls. The next, of course, I'm kidding. It's not going to be 55 minutes, but we are going to talk about
54 minutes of the hottest
girls, women
that attend sporting events. But also, there's got to be a dude or two that's good looking that's like attended like a WNBA game.
And that's going to be Brian's area of interest, and he can take care of that. But I will be back, everybody, with the hottest women that show up at their man's sporting events.
All right, Ryan. Today we had a great show. We appreciate everybody that was listening. Be sure to tune in next week from 5 to 6. One Man's Opinion on Sports. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We will see you back in 167 hours.
You've been listening to One Man's Opinion on Sports with Bryan Pasquale on Beaver County Radio. Don't forget, you can watch the show on WBVP